words that are not parliamentary and very abusive online. And to our viewers, if you continue this way, we will shut down the commentary online. So please, those persons who are making the comments online, keep it very respectful and to ensure that you can make your comments without being nasty. Honorable Minister of Education, it's now your turn. You may proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Sir, perhaps we should be examining what example we ourselves might be setting to the viewers online. I know there is a young man who did not even know that we were sitting in this house. He thought we were at the National Assembly. I won't call your name, who's horrified at the exchanges here. And this is not a Sunday school. This is a parliament. Parler means to speak. But there has to be a limit to what we ourselves as individuals believe is acceptable in this house. What is our duty here? And I like the fact that we have young persons on the other side. In fact, that's what I said to the young chairman, young looking chairman when he was elected. And I have to be hopeful that given that he has older guidance, and I have served with Mr. Norton, that there will be some guidance and correction on this type of presentation in the House. Mr. Speaker, there's not much that we have been able to agree on, but I hope that we can agree that this was a well-crafted budget and that the staff of the Ministry of Finance, the minister who performed these duties, did a fantastic job. I particularly like that we have a female director of budget. There have been entire world conferences focused on how women should be involved in the budgetary planning process. And you see when you have that involvement, the various sensitivities throughout the budget. So I'd like to congratulate particularly the Director of Budget and her staff, Ms. Sonia Rupnath. And while we have not been able, Mr. Speaker, to agree on much, I think we can agree in this House that certain issues cannot be made a punchline. The issue of domestic violence, whether from the podium or from heckles, cannot be made a punchline. In this House, if we are to believe the worldwide statistics, that Guyana has not escaped, 1 out of every 3 women is a victim, was a victim, right in this House. If we are to believe those statistics, we have had victims. And it is both an insult to persons who are currently undergoing hardships in their domestic relationships, as well as frightening to them if we will make issues like that in this House, whether from the podium or as heckles, a punchline. So at least that we can agree on, I hope. I said we cannot make it a punchline. Own it yourself. Decide you are not going to make this a punchline, each individual here, and let's carry on from there. The other thing I hope we can agree, sir, is that education is valuable and that the only way to permanently and certainly change the trajectory of any country and the fortunes of any family and community would be to ensure that any kind of provision that is aimed towards educating communities or individuals is supported. If we cannot agree on those, then we need to have a relook at what our role might be or what we believe our role might be in this House. Sir, I'll begin with the University of Guyana, and attending all these discussions has to be a level of honesty. The honorable member who spoke just before me ended on the University of Guyana and their promises and plans for the students of the University of Guyana, the PPP Civic. It was Dr. Chetty Jagan that started the University of Guyana. We understand on this side of the House how important tertiary education is. And it moved from being Jagan's night school to being an institution that everybody is coveting right now. Mr. Speaker, the PPP instituted fees, and we had a reason for that. Throughout the period of the opposition's tenure in government, where many of these opposition members sat as ministers. They said nothing while university fees, whether they were tuition fees or facilities fees, raised year after year after year on the university students. I'm going to lay over for the House. Minister Indar did it, but I believe it is important for us to have in front of us so that if we have to be urged to remember truth, it is there in front of us for the rest of the debate. UG Council hikes tuition fees by 35%. This is the Guyana Times, sir, of August 7, 2017. And let me tell you what that means for a student, Mr. Speaker. In 2014, the last year of the PPPC's whole financial year, a student who was doing the Bachelor of Education paid $127,000. By the time the coalition left government, it was $220,000. $220,000. Where were your tears then? How much you love these university students then? A Bachelor of Law was paying $300,000 when the PPP left office. The coalition changed that to $390,000. Bachelor of Engineering, $127,000. By the time the coalition left office, that student was paying $220,000. A pharmacy student was paying $250,000. By the time the coalition left office, they were holding their bellies to pay $340,000. A student of medicine was paying $500,000 by the time they left office. These honorable members here, who have all of a sudden developed this heavy sensitivity to the students of the University of Guyana, were paying $590,000. Mr. Speaker, these are the real figures. The People's Progressive Party is here based on promises made in a manifesto that we went to the people of this country and said, this is what we will give to you to improve your lives. And we were very clear in that manifesto. We got the promises we made from consultation, village to village, home to home, television to television station. And we heard what people wanted. And we said very clearly, we're going to find a pathway to remove the debt that students had already incurred, former students and current students, and we are going to make the university free in the first 5 years. And do you know why people are not worried? Because every other promise we made has been fulfilled. And so political parties have to stand with some amount of credibility when they speak. You cannot say in your budget, in your pre-campaign, say 2014, the AP and UAFC, that we're going to double the cash grant and then get into office and abolish it completely, give reasons for it and expect people to trust you. The children of this country, the students of this country are aware and comfortable that before the end of our first term, the University of Guyana is going to be free. Mr. Speaker, I've heard all kinds of things in this House. I've heard people put a percentage. Someone yesterday, some honorable member, I don't remember who it is, actually said there is a 1.7% allocated towards providing disposable income to the citizens of this country. There is no line item, for my dear citizens watching, called disposable income in the budget. A whole host of measures taken are expected to, one, lower the cost that people have to spend on their daily living, and two, allow them more money in their pockets. And I hope, sir, to, in this presentation, show all the various ways that this budget, at least through the Ministry of Education, is going to allow people to have, parents and families, to have more disposable income in their pocket, even as we build out a better and stronger future for the children of this country. Mr. Speaker, in 2019, the school population was about 185,000 children. And the AP and UAFC government spent $18.6 billion, about $100,000 per child. The freezer's gone on again, sir. And
That's okay, Minister. I don't know who told them to put it on. I instructed that it be off. Thanks.
in 2022, with the phenomenon of COVID, which across the world saw loss of children in schools, loss of school populations, we actually are able to have in the school population 193,000 children, more students, and we will be spending $237,000 per child, double the amount in on each child in this country, our Guyanese children. And Mr. Speaker, a large part of that will be spent on civil works. And I want to be very clear. The APNU, when they first, in 2014, and this is perhaps, I heard the most curious statement yesterday by my learned friend, Mr. Region 1, the MP from Region 1, Honorable MP, Mr. Cox. He said, quality education is not about access. Quality, any education has to begin with access. How are you getting this education if there is no access? And I really want him to explain that, because that is an extremely profoundly curious statement. Mr. Speaker, but I understand why he might be saying that. It might be coming from a philosophy. In 2019, $3.7 billion was allocated for the education capital budget. The coalition sent back 58% of that, $1.6 billion, because they couldn't spend it. They couldn't spend it because it's not important. Access and building schools and institutions is not important. That's what the APNU represented in this House within the last 24 hours. It's a philosophy, sir. In 2017, they dedicated or allocated 8% of the education budget to capital works. In 2018, 6%. In 2019, 9%. In 2022, the PPP allocated 23%. In 2023, we're allocating 33% of the education budget towards capital works. And that is because, sir, providing access to the children of this country is hugely important to us getting quality education delivered to our children. This will get us, Mr. Speaker, closer to universal secondary education. And let me say what it is we plan to do. In Region 1, we have to build a school at Hosororo, Quebana, Waramuri, and Northwest. We are rebuilding. That was burnt by arson. Surely we can condemn that act without any prevarications and ambiguity. In Region 2, the Abram Zool Secondary is going to be finished in about 3 months. In Region 3, we're building 2 secondary schools, one at Tushan and one somewhere on the West Bank. In Region 4, we're going to complete the Yarrowcabra Secondary School that was begun under this coalition government, and never finished. And we're going to complete the Good Hope Secondary School that was again begun under the coalition government and never finished. And just so that we could touch a little bit on the race issue introduced earlier, those projects were not given to any African Guyanese contractor. They were not given to any African. They were not procured. They were not given. They were given, if we talk about friends and family, the Yarrowcabra project was awarded on the 31st of December 2019. On the 31st of December 2019, when the election was scheduled for March 2020. Mr. Speaker, those schools were never completed, as a result of which we still have children. We got the funding for these schools, left the drawing and everything. 7 years later, there are children who finished the entire secondary program and couldn't benefit from those schools, given to friends who are not African Guyanese contractors. We will also be building a school at Prospect for 1,000 children. That is Region 4. In Georgetown, we're going to be rebuilding the St. Mary's Secondary School, the St. George's Secondary School, the Christchurch Secondary School that was just destroyed by fire, the North Rheinveld Secondary School, which was also destroyed by fire, is being rebuilt. We're extending the St. Winifred Secondary School. We're extending the East Rheinveld Secondary School. In Region 5, we've achieved universal secondary. In Region 6, we're building a school at Oriala. In Region 7, we're building a school at Jawala. In the Upper Mazaroon. In Region 8, we're going to be extending the two dorms, Paramakatoy and Kato, as well as looking at accommodation in Kopinang. In Region 9, we're building a school at Karasabay and extending accommodation facilities as well as classroom facilities at Aishalton. Region 10 will benefit from, like all the other multilateral schools, our World Bank funding that will see us rehabilitating all the multilateral schools. This is our capital program. I could tell you that out of my head. Mr. Speaker, in addition to that, all the dorms benefited from a condition survey where we know exactly which sink isn't working, which tap isn't working, which toilet is broken, which stairway needs to be repaired. And we know across this country where it would make no sense to put down a school if we don't do teachers' quarters. And so teachers' quarters are being built across Guyana beginning this year, and dorms are being repaired beginning this year. Additionally, sir, all the PICs that are under construction will be completed by this year. Mr. Speaker, this is our capital program. The APNU AFC built not one single secondary school in their 5 years. This is 2.5 years into this government. Not one single secondary school in the 5 years was begun and completed under the coalition government. I just forgot to mention that St. Rose's in Georgetown will be completed by the PPPC. Mr. Speaker, I want to be very clear on the issue of procurement. All of these programs, all of these buildings, all of this capital works, this is how it's done. We put an ad in the papers. We say, hear ye, hear ye. Anybody who wishes to come forward and bid the lowest to do these matters, come. It then goes to the National Procurement and Tender Administration Board, where I haven't gone to any, but I understand there is a public opening of the tenders. Then persons, not the same people on every project, different people selected through a lawful process, go through who is the most responsive bidder that is lowest, and then they award to that person. That is how procurement is done in this ministry. And we are opening any procurement of any item in the Ministry of Education, I would say in the government, but I want to speak for this ministry to say you can come and examine it. We don't see that back. Any of that, we don't see that back until it comes to cabinet for no objections. I have no clue who was given and why. We could ask about why someone who appears to be lower in their bid didn't get it. And there are usually responses for that. Mr. Speaker, once we build these, we will be able to deliver the change that these communities need. So when we hear in this house about equality and equity, we have to match that with action. Those are very nice words, and they look extremely nice as a headline. But you can't come here and lecture us on equality and equity, and you couldn't build a single extension to a single high school anywhere in this country. Anywhere in this country. Earlier this morning, the honorable gentleman from Region 9, Mr. Henry, the honorable MP, said that he was disappointed that the Ministry of Education had not done anything for there are 3 levels. For the people watching, there are 3 levels of education in the secondary public schools, in the public school system: nursery, primary, and secondary. I repeat, I would be embarrassed if I were you too. I understand it. I would be embarrassed if I were you too. I repeat, the APNU AFC did not begin and complete a single secondary school in this country. Not. But you sent back $1.6 billion in 2019 alone. I didn't go back to the other things. This year, we spent 99% of the capital budget, thanks to the PS of this ministry, Alfred King, and 98% of our recurrent budget in the ministry. Because not spending means not giving service. Spending means people get served. So, Mr. Speaker, when we deliver these institutions and teachers in the teacher housing, you are going to see that result in a few years. You're going to see students graduating and people being able to manage their lives and participate in this thriving Guyana in a way that you never prepared them for. The opposition never prepared them for. Mr. Speaker, I agree. If we build a school and we don't deliver, what's the point? So we all have to be invested in this delivery. The Guyana Teachers Union, the leader of the opposition members, the parents of this country, the Ministry of Education, the education officers, we all have to deliver. But if we don't deliver, then we need to get to a table and sit down to find out why. We got to sit down and find out why. If you want us to talk about equity, I'll show you equity just now. Textbooks, sir. Textbooks in 2023, we're going to spend $3.7 billion of textbooks, on textbooks. And this will allow us to give every single student in this country, nursery, primary, and secondary, all the textbooks they need, except for the enrichment courses. All the textbooks they need. But it's not only about money. It's not only about money, it's about how you organize that money. In 2021, we spent $500 million, a little bit above $500 million. But in 2021, in the midst of COVID in the world, in the midst of a big flood, we were able to give every single grade 6 child student in this country all the textbooks they need. You have teachers in this house, they can tell you about it. And you want me to tell you, sir, how that helped? This is how it helped. If you look, and this is how equity works. If you look, Mr. Speaker, at the students who are in the dorm right now, the students who are in the dorm at Turkine, in grades 7 and 8, there are 21 students going to Queen's College, the national schools, QC, Bishop, St. Roses, and Joseph's. No. They've always been termed like that. QC, Bishop, Saints, Roses, and Josephs are national schools because wherever in the country you are, if you get the right marks, you get placed there. Then you have list A schools. We need to move away from it. We need to move away from that. We need to go to a place where every child could go to the school near to their home. But we also need to make sure we invest in every school and make sure the standard is the same at every school near to their home. Mr. Speaker, in 3 years on the APNU, the children in grades 9, 10, and 11, the children in grades 9, 10, and 11, number 9. That's equity. Because we gave textbooks, because we gave a cash grant, more children from places all over this country were able to score grades to get into the national schools. If you don't understand how that's equity, we could chat outside. I'd be happy to sit with you. Mr. Speaker, these will also be procured according to the national NPTAB laws. Mr. Speaker, school feeding. School feeding, sir. The APNU AFC in 2019 spent $1.8 billion. 3 out of 50 nursery schools in Berbice received it. 3 out of 50, 3 over 50. 0 schools received it on the East Bank. Maka didn't get breakfast on the APNU AFC. And Miss Nima, teacher Nima, could tell you in this house that Maka didn't get breakfast in their primary school or a nursery school. 0 schools in Linden, in Region 10. Zero schools in Region 10 received breakfast under the APNU AFC. That's your equity. Mr. Speaker, under the PPPC, under the P. So, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Ramjatan is saying, my honorable friend, is saying that we now get money to do it. You got $1.8 billion in 2019. I'm getting 300 million dollars more. But in my government, the PPPC, all children in grade 6 will get it. All. That's equity. That is non-discrimination. That's equality. That is care for children. You don't even know that your neighbors in Barbies didn't get this. You couldn't care less. Through you, sir. You couldn't care less that your neighbors in Barbies didn't get this. You see, Mr. Speaker, this is how we know that the AP and UAFC had no care for the sugar workers. You took away the parents' jobs and you started a breakfast program. The least you could have done was to make sure those children benefited from the breakfast program. Mr. Speaker, I don't know. Look, I understand this emotion. If I were them, I'd be ashamed too, sir. I would draw ashamed if I were the APNU. I would be highly embarrassed of my record also. If you can own your record, then it might tell you that you were on the right foot. Mr. Speaker, every child in this country, 89,945 children will receive breakfast, and that will put more disposable income in their parents' pockets. So there is no line item called disposable income, but this $2.1 billion will go to parents for their children's breakfast meals. On that program, we're hiring 241 cooks and 9 monitors. Do you know how the APNU did it? And I'm willing to give you the names. Let's talk equality now. You give me your names, who were cooking for you, and let me give you my names. That is where you will see equality. 204 to 1 cooks, and we have said very clearly, whether you're a comrade PPP or a comrade PNC, if you don't cook for the children properly, nutritiously and quantitatively good, you will have to come off the program. This is how you prepared breakfast. One person in one community was cooking for the whole region, and when they need mayonnaise, somebody from Georgetown jumps in a bus and drives to Den Amstel to give them mayonnaise. That is why it was never on time. That is how it was done. That is how it was done. Mr. Speaker, we would remember too that the AP and UAFC said that they were abolishing the Because We Care cash grant. This is after they promised on the campaign trail not only to do it, but to double it and give it to private schools. They said we're abolishing it so that we could give buses and breakfast and bites and boots and growing shoes and something else. Mr. Speaker, in 2019, APNU had given to villages 21 boats. In 2022, the PPP has given breakfast, cash grant, and 47 boats. 2 years after we're in. 5 years, you gave 21 boats. 2 years, we've given 47 boats. 18 buses in 2020. 18 buses. So we heard yesterday from Honorable Amanza Desir that they left the buses to rot. We received, I think the day the honorable member was referring to would have been the PPP. We didn't. We've been giving buses even before the AP and you came in. But we came in and met 18 buses. 18 buses. The other member who said, oh, you could take all the David G buses and drop the children to Christchurch was being opportunistic or speaking in ignorance. By that I mean lack of knowledge. We in 2022 had 39 buses. 39. They had 18 on their big bus program. Our bus program is a periphery thing, and our bus program has 39 buses. So when you tell us you had a superior program, even that was woefully lacking. And you have to understand, when you are defending. So, this is disposable income in people's pockets, sir. When parents don't pay, and I could tell you, I could tell you, Mr. Speaker, that this is not nearly enough. You were saying 18 was enough. I am saying our 49 is not enough. Mr. Speaker, the school grant, the Because We Care cash grant. I won't belabor the point, but I will say this. Yesterday, speaker after speaker, and I believe perhaps today also, speakers were saying that we choose who to give cash grants to. The Because We Care cash grant. Any parent in this country, any parent in this house, any auntie, uncle, teacher, name them, bring them, if they know children, could tell you that once the children come to the desk, nobody looks up to say, how did your mommy vote? How does your daddy pray? Take off your hat, let me see your color, the color of your hair. And somebody over there is saying, like, I am challenging you to bring one single person that was denied this grant based on anything else other than that they did not turn up for it. Other than that they did not turn up for it. This cash grant, the only eligibility criteria is that you must be on the register and attending school. That is it. So how is that discriminatory? How is that discriminatory? Members of this honorable house sat there and told their supporters it is a foolish waste of taxpayers' money. Tell the people that. Members of this house are on record. If somebody's resourceful behind me, they'll find it so I can play it for you before my presentation is over.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Good time to tell you you'll need an extension or the presentation will be over.
Mr. Speaker, I would love to ask that my colleague have many, many minutes to conclude. Thank you.
Honorable Minister, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, sir. $8.6 billion. That's $8.6 billion in the pockets of our parents. That is disposable income. That is disposable income. And that does not take into consideration the administrative cost. This program has been audited live twice, and you will get the audit report in your hand. So don't come to us and tell us about things that we know are untrue, because the parents of this country are hearing you. They know when they go, they get it. They know they sign. They know they have to provide ID. Mr. Speaker, results. My honorable friend spoke of results, and she said 30% of the students had passed in 2020, and 32% only had passed in under the PPP. Mr. Speaker, 30% of a smaller number is numerically a smaller figure. To break it down, 30% of 10 is 3, 30% of 100 is 30. Under the PPP, 32% of 16,000 children is what the honorable member was speaking of. But what she did not do, honorable member, was to tell you what the real figures were. 13% is what passed when they introduced something and did not prepare the teachers or children of this country for that exam, and had children crying in the exam room. And that honorable member knows better. I believe her hands are tied. She's handcuffed to a position. But the honorable member knows better, sir. And there's a better spread. As I said, sir, there's a better spread. We're seeing children from the hinterland communities that never before were able to pass. Like I said, 21 children in grades 1, in Form 1 and 2, people under us, got the textbooks, the teachers, the videos and all that, and 9 in 3 levels under the APNU. Mr. Speaker, we also heard, and I have to say this benefited, the results of these children are directly correlated to the distance education program that we had. In 2020, we had started a learning channel when we left. And you know, the AP and UAFC said that they would use it for political purposes. I would be happy to lay over after this, the record of that. And when we came in 2020, 5 months after COVID had hit this country, there were 40 programs done. There are now 1,800 programs done in 2 years. 1,800 programs, all the grade 6 concepts and topics, all the grade 5 concepts and topics available now available now to all, well, sorry, 85% of the Amerindian villages who never had the Learning Channel before. We gave TV, satellite, and solar power. And in the next 3 months, it's going to be 100%. Mr. Speaker, we have the largest television channel dedicated to learning in the Caribbean. In the Caribbean. Boast about that when you come out of the country. And all of these programs are on YouTube. It was hidden when we came into office. I don't know why you would hide education content. Mr. Speaker, we started also Edu Radio. It is now the largest it is the largest radio station in the Caribbean Broadcasting Union. We're actually better than NCN. We say that with great pride. The Learning Channel is run by Anisha Muhammad, a young lady in this country, and the Edu radio station is run by Philip Williams in Guyana. I'm extremely proud of that work, sir. And that is the work that has allowed us to reach people where ordinarily, unless you could afford the fancy lessons in Georgetown, you could not be reached. You didn't need money for this. Tell me why you didn't do this. Tell me why you didn't do this. You said we got the money. This needed brain. Mr. Speaker, Sen, the honorable member raised the issue of special education needs. So I want to address it very quickly. We have appointed an assistant chief education officer, Keon Chung, and a senior education officer, Nikoya. All 13 Sen schools are undergoing currently a condition survey, so we would know exactly what they need. And we plan to put a Sen classroom accessible in every region, so it's going to be more than one Sen classrooms in every region. We also started for the first time a specialization at CPC, where for the first time they have teachers specializing in special education needs. 303 teachers. You had CPC closed when I entered this office, and you did not start a SEN course. Say that to the nation. 303 teachers are registered on that program. We are going to also make the disability center that is at Turkine, the Caribbean's Diagnostic and Treatment Center, which is how it was intended to be. Additionally, sir, CPC is going to, for the first time ever, they're going to be able to graduate more than 2,500 students because of initiatives taken there to go fully, although not solely, online, and have entered 1,893 students when before they could have only done 500. So we're going to have more teachers at a better quality. Mr. Speaker, I will close by saying this. Yesterday we heard about Charmaine. Charmaine is a single mother. She has 3 children. They're going to school. She has this part-time job. Charmaine is a single mother with 4 children, has the part-time job, wanted and was getting these hardships. Charmaine would have been a single mother with 4 children under the afternoon, but she would not have gotten cash, $40,000 each, $120,000 for her children. She would not have gotten breakfast for her children. She would not have gotten textbooks for her children. She would not have gotten transportation for her children. So Charmaine's individual condition needs to be looked at. But Charmaine is better off under the PPPC any day of the week and twice on Sunday. Mr. Speaker, if the APNU continues to say that they cannot support this budget, they are essentially saying to the people of this country that they don't want them to get $40,000 per child. They do not want schools to be built in the hinterland. They do not want special education needs children to be served. They do not want buses and boats for the children of this country. They do not want trained teachers. They do not want more teachers. They do not want teachers' quarters in the hinterland. We in the PPP are thankful that our vision is not hitched to the APNU's wants and needs. We would like you to come along with us, and I'm inviting you here openly. Anytime you're ready to work with me, I'm ready to work with you. Open invitation, come anytime. There is much we can do together for the children of this nation. But I'm also saying this to you. If you're going to cut your nose off to spite your face, if you're going to try to harm the children to gain cheap political points, we will do this alone, because our duty is to serve the children of this nation, and serve we shall. I thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. The next speaker is the Honorable Member, Ms. Jurita Fernandez. You may proceed just as the Deputy Leader takes the chair. You're gonna start here, right?